Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia offers the widest selection of sports cards and signed memorabilia in the city. For dedicated casual and new collectors, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia has everything a collector could ask for. Everything we sell is stored with care, and with help from our knowledgeable team, we'll help you find exactly what you're looking for. We carry Upper Deck hockey card brands like Series 1 and 2, the Cup, Ultimate, SPA, and plenty more. So what are you waiting for? Come down to Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Winnipeg's premier sports cards and memorabilia store. And good afternoon, Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League fans, into Episode 8, Season 3 of the mmjhl podcast. I'm your host, Graham, the gshow Forsyth. We're presented by Elite Prospects, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Terrico, Goaltenders, as well as Movement Fitness and Performance. A lot of great stuff to get into on today's show. We got 3 sets of highlights to show you from our past weekend of games. We got a busy weekend of games coming up for ourselves, but we'll start off with last week as we take a look at what Sunday had in store. The Railer Express with a big 7-0 win over the Pembina Valley Twisters. Raiders Junior Hockey Club down 1-0, but scored 4 unanswered to power themselves into the win column again with a 4-1 win. The Riels, they still remain undefeated, but it was a close one. Actually got outshot against the Stonewall Jets, but Owen Larocque being a huge difference maker as he continues to make a case not only for goaltender of the year to start off the season, but given how good St. Boniface has been, you can make an argument right now on Larocque with how his statistics have looked, and we're going to show you those in just a little bit here, but that he is in the MVP conversation right now. There's a few players on St. Boniface who you can make that argument for, but yeah, St. Boniface moves on to a 12-0 record. Charleswood in a battle with the River East Royal Knights, they're able to have a big second period and power themselves home with a 5-1 victory, and then in a 11-goal total game, Fort Garry has the most out of the two teams with a 7-4 victory over the Canucks to get back to 500 at 5-5-2. Of course, 2 Thursday night games coming up tonight in the league, which we will be carrying on our Uscreen network. Here's a look at the full standings here in the league. 24 points for the St. Boniface Riels as they're at a perfect 12-0. The Pembina Valley Twisters, for the first time this season, though, this is a huge story. They're able to not only get into the win column, but they're able to win at home for the first time since the 2023-2024 season. As last year in 2024-2025, that team didn't come home with a single home win. But yeah, we're going to throw to a promo screen quickly, and then I'll be back to break down some of the highlights, some of the past games, starting from last Thursday, and then we'll show you the 2 games from Friday. We had St. Boniface and St. James, which, well, Carson Dubois put on a show, and of course we'll show you how Pembina Valley was able to pull off their first win of the season, which came against the Raiders Junior Hockey Club. You're watching the MMJHL podcast, Episode 8 here in Season 3. And welcome back into the mmjhl podcast. So, we throw it back to last Thursday, where the River East Royal Knights were battling against the St. Vital Junior Victorias. We also carried Stonewall and Transcona, which saw Transcona win 6-4 last week, but in a even higher scoring game between the River East Royal Knights and the St. Vital Junior Victorias. It saw St. Vital and River East tied 5-5 heading into the third period, but big blunder for the Victorias led them to go on to the penalty kill. They're able to kill it off, but you'll see what happens afterwards here coming up in our first set of highlights. So Ben Dinez, he's been phenomenal to start this season. He kicks this up to his forehand upon entry, tried to let go of a shot but had it blocked up. But look as he gets into position to receive this pass at the right face-off circle and fires it home past the River East netminder in this one. That started off as Keaton Wallachin, but the Victorias would end up chasing him, and later on to the second period, they're up by 4-3, but Karsten Wallachin would find the back of the net. It would be a hat trick for number 9 on the night, as this game would be tied up at 4 apiece. It would be 5-5 heading into the third period, as mentioned. Nice to see those hats being attempted to be thrown on the ice by the fans. You gotta love the interaction, the enthusiasm there from the fans. But here's what I was talking about. This penalty, this hit just can't happen. As number 7 in green lays the hit for this team, as green would be sent out of this one. Rather, it would actually be Jake Godfrey, apologies, who would be sent out. We're number 7 in this game. So it's a 5-minute major that the Victorias end up killing off, but as we still have the power play graphic on, the clutchness of the captain and Lane Richardson to bat that out of the midair, to put it into the back of the net past Mason to Beck, and River East wouldn't be done there in this third period. A bit later on, as a turnover in the Victoria zone, Lane Richardson able to put it into the back of the net for his hat-trick. It would be his 10th of the season. Karsten Wallachin would score his 4th of the game about 3 minutes later in this one. 8-5 victory for the River East Royal Knights, as they would move on to 8-3 at that time. And as for the Vics, they would end up falling back into the loss column yet again, as they've now lost 5 straight after the loss on Sunday to the Raiders Junior Hockey Club. The Victorias, after that loss, though, fell to 3-6-2, as they were looking for that 4th win, and still are. Maybe they'll be able to get it tonight if they're able to pull off an upset against the Transcona Railer Express. But speaking of teams that were trying to pull off what would have been the biggest upset of the season, given that they are a spot down out of the playoffs. They're in 9th place right now in the St. James Junior Canucks. They were taking on the undefeated St. Boniface Reals, as St. Boniface brought in a 10-0 record heading into their Friday night battle at Ab McDonald Arena, and St. James had this St. Boniface team on the ropes, but as has been the case since last year's playoff run, seems like this Reals team just doesn't die, and they have big-time players stepping up each and every night, it seems. And on Friday night in particular last week, with Bentley Brandt and the Prairie Sports Network crew on the call for us here at G-Show Productions, Carson Dubois ended up being that guy to step up, as that was the Twisters game. We're going to show you that in a moment. But this was in Ab McDonald Arena, and Cullen was having himself a heck of a night too. Look at that zone entry and that feed back door to find Adrian McIntosh for his 7th of the season. Nicholas Cullen, of course, with the assist. It would be 1-1, 1-0 for St. James after the first 20 minutes. St. Boniface was able to tie it up 2 minutes in just after that into the second frame, but Nicholas Cullen again, this time taking it in himself. A nice takeaway just before the blue line as he walks in and ends up beating Dominico St. James would go up 3-1 in this matchup, but Carson Dubois, the start of his hat-trick night at the side of the net, he's able to beat number 31 in Connor Murphy. And that first goal ended up coming 15:09 into the period. Well, just about under a minute later, 57 seconds to be exact, Carson Dubois circles around into the slot, fires it past Murphy as we have a tie hockey game. But about less than 3 minutes later, Dubois will finish off his encore with this.
Here in regulation, and what has been nothing but a brilliant hockey game. And now walking in. There's a shot by Long. Can't do anything with it. Dubois walks in, looking for the hat trick. Rebound in front and a broken stick. Dubois scores! He gets the hat trick with a minute to go. What a game by Carson Dubois with the goal, and the crowd erupts on this side. And you talked about the magic here for the Real.
As Dubois finds it on the wraparound chance, able to find a bit of space to get it past Connor Murphy. It would be Dubois' 5th of the season, a hat-trick performance for number 19. Reeves Sukut would add on the empty net goal about 35 seconds later, as 4 unanswered goals for the St. Boniface Riels catapulted, led by number 19 in Carson Dubois, as late period magic put that team to 11-0, and they come away, of course, with a much different victory, 1-0 on Sunday to defeat the Stonewall Jets. But how about them Pembina Valley Twisters, who have been close heading up into their past Friday night matchup against the Raiders Junior Hockey Club, into getting into the win column for the first time this season. But their attempts up until that Friday night matchup had failed. They had been ahead in games, but had managed to blow leads in a few games before that tilt in Morris at the multiplex against the Raiders Junior Hockey Club. But much like on Sunday, they go up 2-0 against the Raiders Junior Hockey Club. This time around, it went up 2-0 against the River East Royal Knights last Sunday, but weren't able to hold the lead in the end, and it was looking scary as the Raiders would end up, well, tying up this game at 2 apiece after the Pembina Valley Twisters went up by 2. But this night, a bit different for Pembina Valley, as they had a few heroes, and overall, this team coming together to put in all-out great effort out there to come away with their first win of the season. We'll show you the best moments from this game now, as on the power play in the second period, as it was a scoreless first 20 minutes of action. It would be Josh Golford who would put this into the back of the net, beating Ferreira, as Pembina Valley would end up going up 2-0 in this one afterwards, with another goal in the second, but Carter Anderson would weave his way towards the front of the net later on in the second to get the first goal of the game on the board for Pembina Valley, or for the Raiders Junior Hockey Club, as the Raiders would not let up in this period. In particular, they outshot PV 12-4, and they had a lot of nice looking passing plays in this one. They're able to finish on, as it was Cole Kennedy putting it into the back of the net. Kushner paying the price going to the dirty areas there, but his teammate was able to finish it off. And here's the magic later on.
Taken away. Here's a chance. Van Robes in on Ferreira. Van Robes scores! A minute 41 remaining. Number 14.
As Owen Van Robes, what a play at the blue line, as number 14 is able to take it himself, walks in on Andre Ferreira, is able to put it into the back of the net for Pembina Valley to go up.
Since
Just over 2 minutes remaining in this game, and for the Twisters,
under 7
they're
seconds
able to close it out. Well, dumped in by Carter Anderson.
Into the zone, and for Pembina Valley on this Friday night, on November 7th, they're finally victorious at home. As we take a look at the fans cheering here, their hometown Twisters on a sight that hasn't been seen in over a season.
And the crowd in Pembina Valley, seeing what it means to them and seeing what it means to this Pembina Valley Twisters team, who gave a really great effort in that game all around. Even though Owen Van Robe's plays hero, he ended up having 2 goals in that game. Actually, he ended up making it 2-0 in that second period. Shortly after, Guildford was able to put this team up on the power play 1-0, as you saw. But yeah, Van Robe's finishes the game with his 4th of the season. And goal Riley Brown had himself a heck of a game, making 39 saves on 41 stops. But yeah, you really got to give it to Pembina Valley as a whole. They got outshot, 12-4 in the second period and 19-10 in the third period, but this team was able to get a lot of great blocks. A lot of players were sacrificing bodies to help out their goaltender as best as they could. They were able to manufacture enough chances for themselves in the end to capitalize on being more opportunistic than the Raiders, a team that was a bit snake-bitten in this game. But Pembina Valley, they willed themselves to this victory this past Friday. They followed up with a 7-0 loss against Transcona, but it had been over 600 days since their last home win, and it was a game where, yes, you were getting outplayed, hemmed in your own zone at points, but you were able to find enough opportunity to break through and to succeed in this one against the Raiders Junior Hockey Club, and you were able to get it out just enough in your own end, able to get the big saves when it mattered the most from your goaltender in Riley Brown. And yeah, for Pembina Valley, it was amazing to see them be able to not only win their first of the season, but to win their first home game in over 600 days, which is just incredible. Haven't won since 2023-2024 at home, as things have looked a lot different since then for this Pembina Valley Twisters organization, but they're going to be back in action coming up tonight, looking for win number 2, going on the road to face off against the only other rural Manitoba team here in this great hockey league. We're going to send it to a commercial break, and we're going to take you through not only that matchup, but St. Vital and Transcona coming up tonight. And then we'll also take you through just our power rankings, the stats from around the league, and a lot of other stuff coming up next on the mmjhl podcast. Stick around, everybody. Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia offers the widest selection of sports cards and signed memorabilia in the city. For dedicated casual and new collectors, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia has everything a collector could ask for. Everything we sell is stored with care, and with help from our knowledgeable team, we'll help you find exactly what you're looking for. We carry Upper Deck hockey card brands like Series 1 and 2, The Cup, Ultimate, SPA, and plenty more. So what are you waiting for? Come down to Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Winnipeg's premier sports cards and memorabilia store. And welcome back, everybody, into this edition of the Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League podcast. We've gone through highlights so far. Showed you the standings, the scores from this past weekend of action on Sunday in particular. And yeah, it's going to be, well, no games for us this upcoming Sunday. We're going to have 5 on the schedule, all on our U-Screen service, and the games that'll be a part of that will be, well, the 2 games coming up tonight, as our main crew will be at St. Vital Centennial Arena for Vix and Railer Express, and Bentley Branton's Prairie Sports Network crew will be out in Stonewall, Manitoba, as the Pembina Valley Twisters, as mentioned, looking for their second win of the season, going up against the only other rural Manitoba team here in this league. But in terms of U-Screen, we have a link now in the description of this podcast, and it's going to be in every one moving forward. But what we're going to be doing, and we might change it up as the months go along, but right now we have 6 different games that we are putting out for free on Uscreen, and there's a couple from the mmjhl, but what this link is designed to do, I've talked about it a few weeks ago on another podcast, how we're going to reveal it, but it's to, make it easy for you to get to the Uscreen service, and if you're not ready to pay for games just yet, well, it gives you a chance to have some samplers to be able to check out our content, see what game days are all about this year, and and then maybe you may consider buying our content moving forward if you like what you see. And for this, I feel like to give back to the fans a bit at this point in the season, only fair, so we can let you in on our service and let you know what it's all about without you having to pay for it right away, right? So be sure to check out that Uscreen link, and the great thing about it too is that you don't even have to sign up just yet with Uscreen. You can just use your YouTube credentials to sign in, and then boom, you get 6 different pieces of content. In terms of the content we have in there right now, I'm drawing a blank off the top of my head from the mmjhl specifically. So we'll take a look here. But I know we have 2 Winnipeg High School Hockey League games in there, 2 female Hockey League games, and then, in terms of the mmjhl games, we have Riels and Canucks, which you can check out at, or no, we don't have that actually. We have, yes we do, we have the first iteration of Riels Canucks actually, which I think we're going to change that for, which is great. We can add content anytime we want and supply or sub it out of here. But I'm trying to find the first Railer Express and St. Boniface matchup, since that was at the very start of the year, which that was just a fantastic game. I can't seem to find it right now, but that's what's going to be in there. The first game between the Riels and the Express, and then the other game we're going to throw in there, well, we're going to keep that a surprise for now, as we got to make some edits to the YouTube link, but be sure to check it out. Like I said, all you got to do is use your YouTube credentials to sign in. You get free Uscreen games, about 6, and then if you like the content enough, maybe you consider pulling the trigger and buying our content moving forward to help not only support us, but of course a portion of the money you spend goes back to the mmjhl with each Uscreen purchase. But in terms of the standings, once again, heading into this week of action in the as no games on Sunday. It's going to be, well, games that'll be moved to Tuesday that would usually be played on Sunday, just because the league doesn't like to schedule anything on Grey Cup Sunday, even though the Bombers aren't in it, unfortunately. Anyone but Saskatchewan is my motto right now. It sucked to see our rivals win in our home stadium. We didn't get a chance to do it back in, or we missed our opportunity to do it, losing back there in like 2022, so about 3 years later, they better not do it here. But the power rankings as it stands, Riels, Railers, they don't move one bit. Just noticing that we didn't update the records, but Railers are now at 9, or I'm just noticing that these power rankings are not updated, but just noticing that for some reason the changes weren't saved. But the way I would have the power rankings this week would be Riels at 1, Railer Express at 2, bump the Hawks up to number 3, because for Charleswood, this team is on a 6-game win streak, and they just defeated the River East Royal Knights on the scoreboard pretty handily by a score of 5-1 this past Sunday. And yeah, a team that is, besides the Reals, the hottest in the league right now. Wouldn't put them up over the Railer Express, given that the Railers were able to go 2-0 this past weekend and have the head-to-head advantage over Charleswood, and have been better in a lot of categories compared to them, despite them having that 6-game win streak. Charleswood, even though I've been pumping their tires right now, at times hasn't exactly convincingly won against the weaker teams during this win streak, but they have found ways to win, of course, and for that they'd be number 3 in our power rankings. As for the Stonewall Jets, as I think for Stonewall, hold on actually a moment, we're going to get the actual updated power rankings in here, everybody. Stay tuned for more mmjhl podcast coverage coming up next. Alrighty, so the updated power rankings look like this. So yeah, the Hawks move up a spot, the Knights move down a spot. They were still able to go 1-1 this past weekend of action. And as for Stonewall, even though this team, of course, loses 2 games in a row, I feel like, given that about a week or so ago, they were able to, or over a week ago or so, a few Sundays ago, they were able to handle the Twins with ease, even though the Twins were able to come away with, a victory. They started off the week with, of course, another loss to fall to under 500 at the time, not faring so well, 7-1 loss against the Hawks, and of course they didn't exactly win convincingly against a team like St. Vital that's at the bottom of our power rankings right now. But yeah, they were still able to come back in that game, but I just feel like even though the Jets have lost 2 in a row, their quality of play has been higher. Compared to the Twins this season, the Twins have been able to win against the lesser teams, of course, but haven't fared well at all against the teams that are above them in the power rankings here, as we can see in the season. But gotta give the Pembina Valley Twisters a lot of respect. This team was able to go 1-1, same record as the Raiders during this past weekend, and also beat the Raiders. So that's why they get the bump up, and I just feel like it's just such a huge moment for Pembina Valley and a chance for us to put them higher up in the power rankings than we have ever before so far this year, as they've been at the 10th spot every single time to start off this season. The Raiders only fall 1 spot. Yes, they lost to the 10th ranked team heading in, but they're able to dominate puck possession overall against the St. Vital Junior Victorias and handle them pretty easily. And of course, they've fared well against the St. James Junior Canucks already this season in their only matchup, where Raiders ended up winning 4-1 in that contest. St. James, they drop, of course, not only 2 in a row this past weekend, but they've lost about their last, 5 games since they technically had to forfeit that game against the St. Vital Junior Victorias. But I still have them over the Victorias because illegitimate roster or not, what we saw that night is the game that was played, and I just feel like St. James looked like the better team compared to St. Vital that night, where they outshot them by quite a bit. For the St. James squad, and St. Vital kind of in similar positions right now, where they're searching to get back in the win column, have showed some strengths in their schedules in the opponents that they played against. Like St. James was very close to upsetting the St. Boniface Riels. St. Vital, they've competed in every single one of their games, but as for now, those are the two teams with the longest losing streaks. And given that St. James, even though they had to forfeit their game against St. Vital, was able to beat them and outplay them in their most recent matchup, felt like number 9's the right spot for St. James right now, and St. Vital in that 10th spot, looking to work their way out of it. And what better way than to start off tonight with a victory against the Transcon Railer Express? Would be fun to see another upset here in the league. We were so close to our most recent one last Friday, but of course St. Boniface, like they do all the time, seem to ruin the fun for their opponents. And a team that seems to never say uncle. They never say die. Always seem to find a way to come back in their matchups. But as for how November is gone for these teams in the league, like I said, for St. James, like, even though they've been on a long losing streak, much like St. Vital, they've been in games like an 8-6 loss to Charleswood's pretty good, given that Charleswood is one of the hottest teams in the league right now and one of the strongest teams on paper, and has a lot of experience compared to a team like St. James, which is on the younger side of things. And of course St. Vital let things slip away against Fort Garry in that November 2nd matchup. Also let the game get away from them on November 6th last Friday against River East. And to speak about that some more, I mean, there's a perfect example of St. Vital. They're in the game. We said it on the broadcast, but a penalty like that in a crucial moment when this team has taken so many penalties this year and has taken penalties in, very unopportune times. Like, it's just a penalty you don't take there against River East. Yes, they don't score on the power play, but they score shortly afterwards. They're able to build up some good momentum off of that, and I just feel like if you're not shorthanded for 5 minutes, where even though St. Vital was doing some good things on that kill, you're still at a disadvantage. Like, I just feel like things could have gone differently for St. Vital, and for Godfrey to make that hit, I just feel like there's never a time and place to make a hit like that. It's dangerous, it's reckless, but he really put his team in a bad situation, and then the floodgates opened up afterwards, right? Like, River East is able to score 2 more goals to get up to an 8-5 win, and that's been a real big problem for St. Vital. And I talked to Tyler Anderson, head coach of that team, on the show last week, and he spoke about how this team is taking bad penalties and they got to cut those down, and you got to wonder when it's going to start, because we're now into November. Yes, this team is young, but you got to start to reel those in more, because like, even though your penalty kill, Tyler Anderson says it's been doing some good things, and it can do good things, overall it hasn't been the greatest. Not even close to being the greatest. They're in the 70 percentages at 75.9%, a 9th ranked penalty kill in the league, right? So St. Vital needs to stop shooting themselves in the foot, and maybe they can start to rise up more in the standings. They are in a playoff spot, however, right now, due to that game being forfeited by the St. James Junior Canucks a few Thursdays ago. but take a look at the stats leaders in the league. Big reason why the St. Boniface Reals have been able to be as good as they are, well, the contributions from their depth, but most notably their top-end players, like their captain in Cole Davis, Nathan Brzezinski with an absolutely ridiculous points per game average to start off this year. Anytime you're able to get to 2 in a league like this, that's pretty remarkable. And for him to miss the last 3 games and this team able to come away with victories is it speaks to the depth of the St. Boniface Reals team and how truly stacked they are. But Lane Richardson, with his huge performances from this past weekend, he's able to boost himself up into second in the stats leaders in the league for total points. Tyson Sperber, when he's healthy, well, even though he's missed, I guess, a couple games, he's been able to be into the lineup for the majority of the season, and when he is, well, he is quite a difference maker for this team. And Elliot Lewis into another season, another year of experience heading into this year. He's been a prime contributor for this Charleswood Hawks team this year, and he's into that top 5. Ryder McClure with his huge performance against Stonewall, a big reason why he's into the top 5, as last Thursday he was able to have a 4-point night. But spoke about Owen LaRock earlier on in this podcast a bit, how not only is he the front runner for goaltender of the year so far in this league, but he could very well be in the MVP conversation. And the reason I said that is you take a look at the numbers, as you've seen on the screen for the past 30 seconds or so, or past minute. He's got a 6-0 record. He's undefeated. He's got shutouts on an average of every second game. And he's got a .974 save percentage. St. Boniface, they defend really well in front of their goaltenders, and they limit their opponents to low danger chances. They limit the high danger chances really well, probably better than any team in the league. But when things do tend to break down, Owen LaRock, him in particular, Alex Dominico as well, but as for the purposes of talking about right now, Owen LaRock, he's been the one to really come through in the big moments when his team is needed to early on here in the year against the best opponents that St. Boniface has faced too. Like, he's faced off against all the good opponents, all the top end talent that this team has faced. Dominico, he's been able to do his job, but his strength of schedule compared to what LaRock's had to face, I feel like LaRock's had more of the tougher workload, as he's played Transcona twice, Stonewall twice, Charleswood once, as well as River East. And he's not only winning these games, but he's shutting some of the most high-powered offensive teams in the mmjhl out right now. He was able to shout out Transcona last time out, able to get a shout-out against the Charleswood Hawks, and then against the Stonewall Jets, a team that outshot St. Boniface by just a few shots. He puts up a 36 save shutout against them. He's been probably the biggest difference maker. I've said it before and I'll say it again because it's true. He's been the biggest difference maker since coming over in the trade deadline last year from Pembina Valley to St. Boniface, and he was the playoff MVP. He may very well be in the running for MVP in the regular season this year, and is going to be instrumental to St. Boniface's success, of course, moving forward, along with just, of course, how this team continues to play defensively is going to be really key, I think, for them to repeat it as back-to-back champs, and no better goaltender for them to backstop them at this point, which has been the best goaltender in the league in Owen LaRock. And hey, Alex Dominico has been pretty strong as well. .931 save percentage and a perfect 6-0 record with a shutout. Aiden Kuo, rookie for the Charleswood Hawks, a strong save percentage for himself. He's only got 1 loss on the season. Sage Delarone's at 5 wins, as well as his counterpart in Wyatt Thomas. Full stats available at mmjhl.ca. This is how the schedule looks for this weekend coming up, as we start with a doubleheader on Thursday. Tonight, we'll have both games covered for you, and then tomorrow we're going to have 2 games on the schedule, as we'll have Raiders and Hawks, and then we'll also have Pembina Valley and St. Boniface down in Morris at the multiplex. We're also going to be broadcasting Saturday's game, Transcona and St. James. This is a bit of an older screenshot now. This is going to be all the games, though, that are going to be featured on MMJHL Game Day this weekend, the games that I just said. You can check them out on the website now at mmjhl.ca, as look for the watch game icon, and it'll take you directly to these games that'll be live streamed if you're unable to make it down to the arena. And by the way, if you miss the games live but you want to check them out afterwards, we do have all our games archived on our Uscreen service, so be sure to check them out today, the home of MMJHL Game Day, at gshowproductions.uscreen.io. We're going to break down, or preview rather, the upcoming matchups tonight, what these teams are going to have to do to claim victory against each other, as Transcona faces off against St. Vital and Pembina Valley goes to battle with Stonewall. That one in Stonewall tonight, as well as St. Vital and Transcona at the Centennial and St. Vital Arena. All coming up on our network this evening, and I'll be back to break it down after this commercial break on this edition of the MMJHL podcast for Season 3, Episode 8.
Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia offers the widest selection of sports cards and signed memorabilia in the city. For dedicated casual and new collectors, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia has everything a collector could ask for. Everything we sell is stored with care, and with help from our knowledgeable team, we'll help you find exactly what you're looking for. We carry Upper Deck hockey card brands like Series 1 and 2, The Cup, Ultimate, SPA, and plenty more. So what are you waiting for? Come down to Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Winnipeg's premier sports cards and memorabilia store.
And welcome back to the MMJHL podcast, brought to you by Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Movement, Fitness, and Performance, goaltenders, elite prospects, as well as Terrico. As tonight on MMJHL Game Day, we'll have a doubleheader for you, 2 matchups tomorrow, and then we'll have the Saturday afternoon matchup broadcasted this Saturday afternoon, in a rare Saturday matchup in the MMJHL. We'll have Raiders Charleswood broadcast it for you tomorrow, as well as Pembina Valley Twisters taking on the St. Boniface Riels down at the Morris Multiplex. All games can be viewed on gshowproductions.uscreen.io. But as for tonight's game, as we break this one down first, our main crew at G Show Productions will be covering this one, as I'll be on the call. St. Vital and Transcona, all about the finish here. For St. Vital, that's been something that's been lacking so far for them this season. And as for Transcona, well, this has been the most high-powered offensive team in the league so far this year, as they still do lead the league in goals at 5 per game on average. More than any team in the league, even St. Boniface, as they've got 12 more goals than St. B through 12 matchups so far this year. But yeah, St. Vital, they've let things slip away in the past few games. This is a huge matchup for this squad, as they look to climb their way out from near the bottom of the standings. Yes, they're in 8th place right now. They're 3 points up on the St. James Junior Canucks, and they have a big advantage on them currently right now, given that that win was given to them due to a forfeit from St. James back on their game a few Thursdays ago. But you need to start taking things into your own hand. Yes, you're a young team, but you're a young team that has showed good potential. But there are still things that are lacking for this team, and I would like to see a bit more compete from them, especially in their own end. Bear down even more in your own zone and make sure you're clearing rebounds away all game long, because let me tell you, Transcona, they're going to feast on loose pucks, rebounds, if they're there for enough time, as this team loves to crash the net. You need to find a way to, of course, limit the transition from Transcona, but also find a way to win the board battles more. You need to elevate your game, plain and simple, right? You're the underdogs heading into this one, going up against a loaded Transcona Railer Express squad, but you got some great players of your own. Tyler Free, a rookie, has been a really huge positive. He leads the team with 7 goals. Ben Dinez, a speedster, a skillster, whatever stir term you want to use that has to do with those terms I just said, it applies to Ben. And yeah, of course, the Andersons, which of course Nolan's out of the lineup right now and has been with an injury past few games. And yeah, Aiden Anderson was also out the past game, and I don't see him actually on the roster for tonight at the Game Center, so interesting development there. But St. Vital, they're going to need their young talent to come through in this game. They're going to need to limit their penalties as well, as Transcona has one of the best power plays in the league. And for St. Vital, you need to find a way to solve your transition game a bit. There's been a lot of times for this team at points where it's been a struggle for them to progress through the zone, just because their passes have been a bit off, whether that's cross ice or just missing on the stretch pass. But when they have been able to connect, good things have happened for them off the rush. They've been able to create some great opportunities. This is a team that needs to find consistency in their game tonight, and needs to step it up against a very good Transcona Railer Express team, which is stacked with the likes of players like Ryder McClure, Declan Whiteman, the captain Nolan Vandenbush, Nathan Turner, rookie, and Cameron Sylvester, who came away with Rookie of the Month, right? Like, those are just some of the names that can beat you on this team. St. Vital is going to need to bring, I think, more than their best to have a great chance to win in that game tonight. But as for the Pembina Valley Twisters and the Stonewall Jets, an interesting matchup, because I think Pembina Valley has shown that against any team at this point in the season, except for, the top of the top, like teams like St. Boniface and Stonewall, or not Stonewall, sorry, St. Boniface and Transcona. It's been a huge struggle against those teams in particular, but against teams like the Stonewalls, like Charleswood even, this team's been able to compete pretty well. So, yeah, I think for Pembina Valley going into this one tonight against the Stonewall Jets, you know that you're going up against a fast Stonewall team, a team with a lot of skill up front. They're powered by offense, truly. You look at their goals for so far this season, one of the better teams in the mmjhl, ranking at 5th, so middle of the pack. Their goals against a little bit worse. They do have a goaltender that I think is starting to play better, but hasn't exactly found his groove yet this year in Spencer Hunnam. Maybe that changes tonight against Pembina Valley, maybe it doesn't, but yeah, in terms of Pembina Valley, their chances, like, this is a team that's proven they got some good foot speed. They've proven that they're not afraid to get aggressive and stay on you tight, and they're a team that's proven that they'll skate with you and they'll compete with you. The thing that I'm interested in, though, is that I feel like Stonewall and Raiders are similar in ways, in terms of they like to get the cycle game going and they like to possess the puck at a high rate and try to wear teams down with their speed. But I feel like on paper, Stonewall is a much better team at finishing and putting that puck into the back of the net, compared to a team like the Raiders, who were a bit snake-bitten last Friday against the Pembina Valley Twisters when they lost that game in Morris. So if Pembina Valley's offense is able to get going and they're able to start connecting once they get into the slot, because the Raiders were getting into the slot last game, were just unable to finish, putting a lot of shots into the breadbasket of Riley Smith. But yeah, if Stonewall is able to get hot with their sticks tonight, I think it could be a potential long night for Pembina Valley. But if Pembina Valley is able to come away with another gutsy effort, play above their means in this game coming up tonight, get big saves from their goaltending, whether that is Smith or Darian Penner, if they're able to get, their players to step up around them in their own end, get a few blocks, and maybe they're able to take advantage of opportunities going the other way, take advantage of potential breakdowns from the Stonewall Jets, like this team did against the Raiders Junior Hockey Club last Friday. That's a potential pathway to victory for the Pembina Valley Twisters. But I feel like if Stonewall does bring their best tonight, and locks in, we've seen how this team has been able to punish teams that are weaker than them on paper, off the rush, on the cycle, with their speed and with their skills. So I expect Spencer Hunnam, if he does get the start tonight, to be locked in. Stonewall's going to need to get some goaltending because, and I do think their goaltender is going to need to be locked in no matter what, because you may very well be facing a little amount of shots in this game, and that becomes kind of dangerous for a goaltender because maybe you're used to facing plenty of shots in a night, but then you don't have as much work in this game. You get a bit out of it, and maybe your mind is wandering other places. Goaltenders who are truly locked in games where they're facing less shots, that's equally as impressive at points compared to when they face a high quality of shots, just because the quality of shots may be even higher, and the chances of scoring, the nerves go up a bit, given that you haven't faced as many shots and maybe you're not as warm as you once were at the start of the game, right? So Stonewall's going to need to get some good goaltending tonight. Same with Pembina Valley. Pembina Valley's going to have to find a way to capitalize on their opportunities and try to limit this Stonewall team as best as they can. But if Stonewall comes to play in this game, I feel like their speed could take over, and if their sticks get hot, this one could potentially turn into a rout for the Stonewall Jets over the Pembina Valley Twisters, as they'll be playing at home at the Veterans Memorial Sports Complex tonight. As for the games, like mentioned, you can catch them on gshowproductions.uscreen.io, and hoping that you tune in to 5 great games that we got in store for you coming up this week and weekend in the mmjhl. As for myself, Graham the G Show Forsyth, this is going to do it for this edition of the mmjhl podcast. Special thanks to you, the viewer, for tuning into this one. If you enjoyed this edition of the mmjhl podcast, be sure to consider subscribing and turn on notifications if you haven't already, so you don't miss any future uploads of this podcast, as well as consider leaving a like so more people here on YouTube can see content like this, and consider sharing it with your friends or family or anyone else who may be interested in a show like this. To stay up to date with all things mmjhl, next episode comes out next week for episode 9 in season 3. Can't wait for it. I hope you're excited for it too. Before I let you all go, I want to give a special thanks to our sponsors in Terrico: Movement, Fitness, and Performance, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Goaltenders, and Elite Prospects for sponsoring another edition of the MM Podcast. That's going to do it for myself here, Graham the G Show Forsyth. Peacing out and waving so long, everybody. Enjoy all the great hockey coming your way this weekend, mmjhl fans. I guess more so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, since there's no league action coming up on Sunday due to the Grey Cup. We're going to have games on Tuesday, which will also have broadcasted, so check out the mmjhl's website in the next few games, as those games will be available to go through the website to be able to purchase them on our Uscreen service. And also be sure, of course, like I mentioned, to check out our Uscreen link, as there's going to be a couple of mmjhl games that we've done this season for you to be able to watch, which is our gift to you. Maybe it could lead you into purchasing
upcoming games tonight and for the foreseeable future in the MMJHL. But that's enough from me. Graham, the G Show, Forsyth. Once again, waving so long and peacing out, everybody. Take care.